More high school football cancellations because of COVID-19.
And a murder suspect is now behind bars.
We'll have all these stories and more coming up on the Wednesday edition of the Gwinnett Daily Post podcast.
Carriage Kia in Gainesville and Woodstock has up to $6,000 in rebates right now during the summer sticker event. New 2019 Optima, Sorrento, Sportage, Stinger, and Forte. 66 months, 0% for qualified buyers only at Carriage Kia, Gainesville, and Woodstock.
Good day. It's Wednesday, September 30th, 2020. Welcome to the Gwinnett Daily Post podcast. I'm your host, Darren Sutherland.
And I'm Amanda Lee. The Gwinnett Daily Post podcast is your hyper-local news podcast brought to you every week by the BG Podcast Network and Gwinnett Daily Post. But before we get to today's headlines, here's a quick look at today in history.
In 1954, the USS Nautilus, the world's first nuclear submarine, is commissioned.
Nobel Peace Prize winning author and Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel is born in 1928.
And in 1927, the Bambino, Babe Ruth, hits his 60th homer, setting a record that would stand for 34 years. Now here's what's making news in Gwinnett County today.
Despite no positive COVID-19 tests, the unbeaten Peachtree Ridge football team's next 2 games have been canceled because of exposure to the coronavirus during last week's game with Centennial.
The Lions lost this Friday's game against Lanier and an October 9th game against Campbell of Smyrna because of a positive COVID-19 test from a Centennial player. Lanier Athletic and Activities Director Matt McDonald said the Longhorns are searching for an opponent to replace Peachtree Ridge on Friday. Since the 2 games are non-region games, there are no plans to reschedule them.
No Peachtree Ridge players have tested positive for the coronavirus, but they are being monitored. Peachtree Ridge is the 3rd Gwinnett school forced to cancel multiple games for COVID-19 issues. Both Berkmar and Mill Creek called off their first 2 games of the season, but both have since returned to action.
Remember, you can join Gwinnett Daily Post sports editor Will Hammock and Marcel Pertut this Friday for Gwinnett Football Fridays. A single-car accident on McKendree Church Road in Lawrenceville has resulted in the death of the driver over the weekend, according to Gwinnett County Police reports. Corporal Colin Flynn said Lawrenceville resident Jerry Brock lost control of his vehicle while he was driving on the road shortly after 3 a.m. on Saturday. Brock drove off the road and first hit a fence, then hit a tree. Brock died at the scene of the accident. Police believe that speed was a contributing factor in the crash. Condolences to Mr. Brock and his family.
We have a follow-up to a homicide we told you about 2 weeks ago. Moses Dill was arrested in Atlantic City, New Jersey on Monday. Dill is accused of murdering his girlfriend, Shakia Smith, after an argument. Smith was found dead in the road in unincorporated Buford in the early morning hours of Saturday, September 12th. Dill was named the main suspect in the case just days later. Moses Dill has been charged with aggravated assault and felony murder.
Northside Hospital is making it even easier to get the care you need close to home.
We'll tell you how, coming up on the Gwinnett Daily Post podcast. Hey guys, it's Amanda Lee, your local host and Gwinnett native. 2020 has been a different year for sure, but if the time has come for you and your family to buy, sell, or rent a new home, Peggy Slappy Properties is here to help. Peggy and her team have been in Gwinnett and surrounding areas for 38 years now, helping folks just like you and me. Peggy and her team are a little different. Her team of 35-plus realtors realize that fostering strong relationships within the community is the key to their business. Peggy's team of professionals can work with you regardless of circumstance. Residential homes, new homes, rentals, with listings all over the county. In today's climate, you hear a lot of noise from others on how they can help you. The difference is, at Peggy Slappy Properties, they're buying and selling for neighbors, family, and friends. Don't you believe you'll get the most value from a team that knows the lay of the land? Visit Peggy Slappy Properties online at psponline.com or give them a call 24/7 at 770-271-5555. Peggy delivers the very best in Gwinnett and Georgia real estate because you deserve no less.
Engineered Solutions of Georgia. Atlanta, this is Jay and Lewis, owners of Engineered Solutions of Georgia. Lewis, what should a homeowner do if they have a crack in their block wall, corner of their door, window, or concrete foundation?
Well, Jay, if it's a diagonal crack, this lets us know that they should be concerned and there could be a serious problem. Then they should call our office at 678-ESOG now and set up an appointment to have one of our qualified professional technicians come out to their property to take a look at the problem.
I'm consumer investigator Dale Cardwell. I've done the research already, so you don't have to. You can trust Engineered Solutions of Georgia.
Give Engineered Solutions of Georgia a call at 678-ESOG now.
Engineered Solutions of Georgia. We guarantee a stable, dry foundation. Dial 678-ESOG now.
You won't hear any now boarding calls near the miniature train tracks at the Southeastern Railway Museum in Duluth for the next few weeks. The 63-year-old ride has been taken out of service so it can undergo restoration and a complete engine overhaul. That's right, this means the little engine won't be pulling visitors around the museum's grounds until sometime in early or mid-October. The train was built in 1957 by the Miniature Train Company and ran at the Birmingham Zoo until it was retired in 1976. It was placed at the museum in 2012. Museum officials said there is another park train, but it's undergoing its own complete rebuild in the museum's machine shop.
The train taken out of service is substantially original, according to museum officials. It's one of less than 70 trains built by the Miniature Train Company that are still operating in the country. The train was sent to industrial engine rebuilders in St. Paul, Minnesota for the restoration project.
Amanda, have you ever rode the little train that could?
I've ridden one in Largo in Florida. They have a little one that goes through the park there that my sons were big fans of.
I've rode the miniature train at the Atlanta Zoo, but never rode the one in Duluth. We'll have to get up there and do that. Hey, if you're in the market for a new physician, you now have more options close to home. Northside Hospital recently added 6 new doctors to its network of providers in Gwinnett County. The doctors include an orthopedic sports medicine specialist, a cardiologist, and a general surgeon. You can get all the scoop on the new doctors and where they'll be practicing by reading Kurt Yeoman's article on the GwinnettDailyPost.com.
Even during Georgia's mild winters, it can be a challenge to keep your houseplants looking their best. Here with some expert advice is Gary Crawford with the USDA.
Well, for about half the country, part of what you're going to hear in a second here will be a little late, but the rest of it will still apply. And if you've already brought your houseplants back indoors for the winter, this information from Kansas State University horticultural expert Ward Upham might still help the health of your plants. So let's assume you have not brought those plants inside just yet. Here's what you should have done. Ward Upham says hose those plants down with water.
What you're trying to do is get rid of any mites or any insects that happen to be on the top part of that plant. The second thing you should do is soak that pot in lukewarm water for about 15 minutes. That will force any insects that happen to be in that media to come out.
As to where to place those plants, he says you don't necessarily want to put them in their accustomed winter spots in the house just yet. Instead,
you want to put them in the area of the house where they get the most light. That's regardless of where they're going to end up.
And that's obviously because
those plants are used to high light levels outside. And you want them to go from high light levels to low light levels over a gradual period of time.
Several weeks, not days. Otherwise, you'll likely get a major dropping of leaves right off the bat. The plants will want to convert from sun leaves, which they've had all summer. These are smaller, thicker, more numerous leaves with less chlorophyll. But when the plants come inside,
they're going to want to try to convert those to shade leaves. Those are going to be larger, fewer, thinner, and more chlorophyll per leaf. If that change in light level is too quick, that plant is going to drop those old leaves and replace them with new. In other words, they're going to drop the sun leaves and replace them with shade leaves.
And it could happen fast, to be very messy with leaves, and not good for the plant to have that sudden changeover.
So start them out in as bright a portion of the house as you can, then gradually move them to where they're going to spend the winter. And so that process can take 4 to 8 weeks, depending on how much difference there is in the brightest part of the house to where they're finally going to spend the winter.
Ward Upham says many people put those plants in places that are just too dark for their needs, considering that in winter the natural light available is only about 10% of what you get in the summer. And so you can expect it as a natural thing.
That plant is going to look a little peaked, and that's where people make a mistake.
Yes, they might imagine that their peaked plants are screaming at them. And water me. I need lots of water. I mean, look at me.
Well, that's the exact opposite of what you want to do. The problem is lack of light. It's not lack of moisture, not lack of fertilizer.
The tendency is to over-fertilize that plant.
So if you add too much fertilizer, you can burn roots, and that's detrimental to the plant. If you add too much water, you can suffocate the roots.
Upham says from now through February, use only maybe a fourth of the fertilizer you'd normally use on that plant, if that. Water the plant only if the soil feels dry when you poke your finger down about an inch into the soil. Gary Crawford reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Thank you for joining us for the Gwinnett Daily Post podcast, your true hyperlocal news source.
Grab a copy of today's paper and visit GwinnettDailyPost.com for complete details on the stories we've discussed, plus more stories that affect you and the residents of Gwinnett County.
Subscribe and share this podcast to get all the latest hyperlocal updates, or ask Alexa or Google Home to play the Gwinnett Daily Post podcast for you.
Share your thoughts or questions with us in the comments section, or call the podcast comment line at 404-997-8655. We might share your comment on an upcoming episode.
The Gwinnett Daily Post podcast is produced by BG Ad Group. Amanda Lee, producer. Jacob Sutherland, director. Copyright 2020. All rights reserved.
Brought to you by Toccoa Falls College in Toccoa Falls, Georgia. More information on TFC, call 706-886-7299 or visit them online at tfc.edu. That's tfc.edu. Since 1907, TFC, glorifying God through seeking and developing leaders who will impact the world for Jesus Christ.